State of Origin and the major buy rounds are getting very close. So if you're an NRL fantasy coach, this is an important team list review for you. So obviously, first look here, and we also release buy, hold, sells Wednesday morning too, with more in-depth analysis on these guys as well. So this is a bit behind the scenes, but let's jump right in. Look, Storm and Broncos first. Having a look at these teams, and on the Storm side, there are a few guys to think about. So firstly, Cam Munster, Harry Grant are two elite tier guys. They both play Origin, 100% guaranteed. I wouldn't be buying either one. If I was a Munster owner, I'd think about selling up on Munster, just with a bit of the injury history. He might get rested a bit after Origin games. Saying that, the Storm haven't been the dominant team that we've seen in previous years, so there's a big chance that they won't rest guys as much as they have in previous seasons because they're right back in the pack. For Harry Grant, right now I'm holding Harry Grant for my team just because Damien Cook might get picked for Origin. He's dropped 200k. Reece Robson's been really inconsistent the last month. He was a guy I was going to target, but he's around 700k, and he's probably going to be a guy that I look to buy, but I wouldn't want to move Harry Grant for him just because you're losing probably 10 points in that trade. Then you've got guys like, look, there's always Chorus out there. He's better in real life than he is for fantasy. Jerry Marshall King's a guy everyone's talking about. He's kind of juicy. I'm probably not going to take that risk. And then other than that, there aren't too many more hookers you'd go for. Like a Brandon Smith, I prefer him as a middle or a bench guy just because he covers those two spots. But Harry Grant might be a guy you hold. Eli Katoa, you probably moved him on before the major buy because of the concussion and low score. If you haven't, I'd move him on right now. Trent Loiero is a bit trickier. If you held on to him, you've enjoyed some big scores. But last week's game was one where he got pulled off the field. He played 72 minutes, but that was because he came off earlier, came back on for an injury. So for Trent Loiero, I'd probably be looking to move him on just because of that round 13 buy. If he was playing round 13, I might keep him, but I think he's a guy to move. From the Broncos side of things, Reece Walsh has come back to earth a bit. He's been a bit up and down the last few weeks. If you've got him, there aren't that many options that are much better, but he probably plays Origin or he's thereabouts. He's in the squad maybe, so it's a bit tricky with Reece Walsh. I'm uninspired by all of the other options. If I was looking at Joey Manu and I had Reece Walsh and he was the guy I wanted to trade out for Manu, that makes sense, but I wouldn't be chasing too many of the other guys. Rest of this back line, I wouldn't be touching too much. Herbie Farnworth's kind of interesting. He plays for England, so he's not going to be playing Origin. Got a pretty solid base most weeks. He runs a lot of meters. He's been scoring a lot of tries. The Broncos are explosive. Farnworth could be a nice pod for you. Katoni Staggs doesn't have that same work rate that Farnworth has, so I wouldn't be going to him. Cobbo, Origin, Arthur's lose his spot to Oates. Ezra Mam, there's no base there. He's a great player in real life, not for fantasy. Adam Reynolds, he's consistent. He won't play Origin. He averages 50 every year. I don't hate him. I'm more a Dylan Brown man myself, but I've had him for a while now. If you've got Payne Haas, you probably hold on to Payne Haas. You might get a bit of a rest, but I probably wouldn't be desperate to move Payne Haas on at this point. If you've got Carrigan, I'm probably moving him on still. He's come back to a bit of form, but he'll play Origin. He gets a bigger rest. His PPM isn't the same as Payne Haas's. Rest of the team I'm not really touching. Next game here, we got, Doggies and Warriors. So Dogs have been a bit up and down. Look, I've been on Paul Alamotti and backing him to have a bounce back for a little bit now. He hasn't done it. It's been pretty tough to watch. But Josh Adokar is back this week. So if you have Paul Alamotti, he's in that high 300s area. I'm hanging on, personally. I'm hanging on because he's got a couple of nice fixtures. So the Warriors, he can exploit them. And then after that, I think he's got the Titans as well. Titans are playing good footy, but they can be exploited as well. So I'm keeping Alamotti. I just think he'll get past 500k at some point. And my centers are a bit of a mess. And you're probably looking at Valence Tavare. You're probably looking at, Lemuelu. You probably have Hamaso. Those Dolphins guys are all out this week. So you don't want to rush in some other guy when you've got Alamotti. Jacob Kraz, he's in the 500s right now. He's getting cheaper by the day. So I think he dropped 70 then 60k the last two games he's played. Kraz is a guy I'm targeting aggressively for round 14. So just keep an eye on him. Just keep in mind that after that first major buy, he's going to be a great buy. Kraz will be that guy. He's probably a keeper, and you get him for a really cheap price. So that's a winner. Reed Marnie, I didn't mention him at hookers. He's been up and down as well. I wouldn't be rushing to get him in. Pangai, he came back a bit last week. I mean, he started that game really hot and he was going more than a point a minute for the first 30 minutes, and then he just didn't do much after that. But yeah, Pangai could be a guy that's cheap at some point in the 400s, and he might be worth looking at. Jacob Preston, if you held him, you're really happy. Held on to that one. Tom Mariner is a bit of a mirage. Oloapu, I'd be getting him if you don't have him. He's still very cheap. He's still in that sort of mid 200s area. Just go get him. Like, he's a cash out, and he's a guy that's a long-term 7 or 6 for the Dogs. So you're not going to lose that bet, but it might take a bit longer. On the Warriors side of things, there's not too much to talk about in the back line. I'm not super interested there. You've got Shawnee Johnson. He was overperforming a bit at the start of the year. He's come back a bit to earth. He plays the first major bye. You're probably not going to move him on. Adam Fanua-Blake, we were talking about him a couple of weeks ago. The ship has sailed a bit there. He had a few games in a row where he played 70 minutes. So that was when you're probably looking at him. But now Tohu's running. Look, Curran comes into the edge because of Ford's injury. So that kind of helps. Dylan Walker comes on as a middle forward, though, and he eats up some pretty solid minutes. So, Tohu sometimes goes to the prop role for that to happen. I'm probably not bringing Fanua-Blake in at that price, but he is a pod still. Curran's a mirage. Curran gets moved to the bench no matter what happens. Tohu, if he stays fit, he's serious value, but he hasn't been able to stay fit. Probably not doing it. Yeah, I'm not super interested in anyone from the Warriors for fantasy this week. Panthers and the Roosters. It's going to be a sick game in real life. On the Panthers side of things, I've had To'o and Taruva in so many draft leagues, and To'o has done a bit of a job. Taruva, he had one game this year so far. We're in round 11. He's had one game where he scored tries out of 10 rounds. Like, that's a pretty tough strike rate to swallow for a Panthers player. There's probably some regression in it for him, but their attack has just really struggled, especially on his edge. So I'm not super interested there. I mean, Dylan Edwards is benefiting because he's not passing to Taruva. And he's scoring a lot of tries, so he's playing great footy. But I'm not desperate to rush Edwards in. Give it a few more weeks and see how he looks after that first major bye, because he might be a keeper at wing fullback. Nathan Cleary, he showed us why he's that guy. 90 points. He had basically no attacking stats for 90 points, which is the most Cleary thing you'll ever see. I captained Hines over him last week and have been doing so for a while now, and it's been working until last week. So I'll probably stick with Hines this week, but Cleary, if you traded him out, you probably feel a bit silly. If you got him, he's probably a guy that's worth holding on to through Origin, just because he looks fully fit right now. Unless he picks up a niggling injury, I'm sticking with him. Him and Hines are those guys. In the forward pack, Hosking's a bit interesting. So if we scroll down the reserve list, we have Liam Martin, and Luke Garner's been thereabouts for a while now, but Liam Martin comes back. So it probably just means that Sorensen goes back to that middle forward role on the bench, and the big loser there is Lindsay Smith, if you have him. So I wouldn't be running Lindsay Smith on my bench this week, even if you're desperate. Hosking probably keeps his 80-minute role. Like, he's just playing such good footy. If you've got Hosking, you probably keep Hosking. Like, he's just pumping out big scores. Even when he goes bad, it's still 40s. So Hosking's that guy. Isaiah Yeo, he's been unbelievable, but it's too late to be buying a guy who's going to be playing big minutes instead of Origin teams. So steer clear there. Both these teams don't play round 13 either, so I'm not super keen to buy too many of them. The interesting one here is Billy Smith. I'm going to do some analysis on this, but I had a look at this earlier, and Billy Smith has averaged 36 points per game across his career in games where he's played 80 minutes or more. So it's about 15, 20 games that he's played. 36 points. He's 361K right now. I'm a bit sus on him, and I'll throw in some reasons here. One, we've got Dan Tupou, who comes back in round 14. So that's 2 games away for the Roosters. Dan Tupou's back. Let's say Dan Tupou eats up Corey Allen's spot. All right, cool. So Billy Smith's still on the team. Secondly, they've got Sam Walker. They haven't released Sam Walker. Sam Walker's still there. There's every chance that they lose again because their attack really struggled last week. The Roosters were beaten 26 by the Cowboys. If they struggle in attack again, there's every chance that Joey Manu goes right back to center and eats up Billy Smith's spot. and Sam Walker comes into the halves. Now, that's one option. The other option is that they really rate Billy Smith because he played great on the weekend. He passed the eye test. And they might go Jackson Paulo out of the team, Suoli'i to the wing, and Joey Manu back to center. Because they're not invested in Suoli'i anymore. Suoli'i is gone next year. He's a better winger than he is a center, so they might end up doing that. So there are a few question marks, but Billy Smith probably keeps his spot. But at 361K, 36 average across his career, the Roosters not looking great. Penrith this week, not playing the major bye, round 13. I'm willing to wait a week here and just see what happens with Billy Smith, because I just think there are some better guys that we can get soon than him, like Valence Tavare. He's awesome. He's going to be, mid 200s. You've got Carraz, who's going to be in the 500s, not that much more than Billy Smith, and significantly better as a fantasy prospect. You've got guys like Jesse Ramian's going to be really cheap soon. He's a guy who's consistently produced pretty good averages at center. And Cronulla's playing well. He just hasn't had the ball as much this year. But he's a guy I'm thinking about for round 14. So, look, I'm probably going to steer clear on Billy Smith. But if you have Billy Smith, not the worst option. Look, forward pack here, Brandon Smith. He's had so many random injuries this year, but he keeps producing. He keeps coming back and sort of playing. He's playing good footy. I love having that mid and hooker on the bench as well, because I just know that if anything happens to one of my guys, he's going to sub in to those spots, and it's just nice to have on the bench. He's a guy I'm going to hang on for a bit. I think Brandon Smith will peak at some point. He'll have he's had some explosive games, some big attacking games, and he'll eventually have some of those lower work rate games where you have to sort of look at it and go, all right, am I willing to lose some money, or do I want to hold him through Origin? I might want to hold him through Origin. We'll look at that more closely. Gus Crichton's a guy I want to talk about on our fire sale video. Gussie Crichton's down about 130K. He's 666. You can afford to wait a week on Gus Crichton. I want to see him play against Penrith, and this is similar to Billy Smith. Egan Butcher, if he walks back into the starting side and you bought us Gus Crichton, you're looking silly. Gus Crichton's another guy where 2 games, round 13 bye. Let's have a look at him at round 14. I'm thinking about it because he won't play Origin, at least for the first 2 games. Yeah, I could be talked into Gus Crichton. He's historically been a top 10 fantasy guy. Rest of the team, not too interested in. Not touching much of the bench. Look, Matt Lodge might be somewhere else soon. That could be interesting. Probably not, though. Next up, Souths and Tigers. This is always a deceptively good game, even when Souths are going well and the Tigers are going poorly. On the South side, look, if you've got Latrell, you've really enjoyed that. It's been great for you. He had a bit of a lower game last week. This is a nice matchup for him. Hang on there. If you've got Campbell Graham, very try-reliant. I'm not a fan of that as a fantasy buy. Or Cody Walker. They've worked for you for a while, but those guys have some low scores in them. So just keep an eye out for that. Alex Johnston's a guy who's dropped a lot of money. If you back him to go back to the norm with his try scoring, which is a reasonable estimate, to be honest, Johnston's a bit of a pod. I'm not going to do it. He's an awkward price, but he's a guy who could make you 150K just playing the way he's played last year. So that's one of those real big brain risky options that I'm not going to do, but it's there. Toll is a guy who people have talked about as a must-have. I'm not convinced. I need to see something big from him. He is very cheap, though. So he's gone down from the 600s to the 400s. You might get him for 400 flat at some point. He's a guy who's averaged sort of 40 plus too. So he could be worth a look. Personally, my middles are filled for round 13, so I'm probably not going to do it, but keep an eye on him. Damien Cook down 200K. Damien Cook, if he didn't get big for Origin, insane value. Damien Cook, if he gets picked for Origin, steer clear. Keep in mind, too, for round 13 and the major bias, you don't get to play a bench. So if you have 2 hookers, like if you have Reece Robson and Damien Cook, you only get to start one of them. So that's tricky. Only 13 starters for the major bias. Keep that in mind. The rest of the team, I mean, look, if you've got Jaime Selly, you've had some good weeks and bad weeks. If you've got Jacob Host, you've had some good weeks and bad weeks. Cheekamp, you kept him, which there's no way anyone did. That's been pretty good. Cam Murray, that's tricky. I don't have Cam Murray anywhere, and I was regretting it at the start of the year, and now it's looking all right. But with Origin coming up, The buy schedule not great. He's dropped so much money though. He's in the mid 700s. I'd probably sell, cut losses and sell. Yeah, I'd cut losses and sell. If you don't have him, he's a guy to keep an eye out as a buy target. But he has the buy in round 20, plays Origin round 19. So he's kind of useless through that period. He's probably just a guy you got to take off your radar. Rest of the team here, I mean, let's look at, there's nothing really on the bench. Jairo has been middling. Tigers side of things, if you don't have Buller, go get Buller. Buller's awesome. If you listen to us, you got Buller. So enjoy that. Not for him, a bit of a mirage. He's going to have ups and downs. He's just a winger. I don't think he's going to recapture that form of 3-4 years ago. Really good player in real life, but I don't think he's going to do it for you in fantasy. Toe is not as consistent as he's looked this year for fantasy as well, so don't fall into that trap. Tommy Talau is minimum price, and I mean they've got a suspension right now in the back line, so no Naden there. He's minimum price though. I have him because I started with him and I refused to sell him because he's minimum price. So I'm kind of hoping he does something, but I would not be buying Tommy Talau personally unless I saw something big from him, a big game where he sort of earned his spot. Yeah, I'm not reaching for that. Junior Tupou, a bit of a mirage too. I mean, look, Wakeham and Brooks have been going well the last couple of weeks and Tigers have been winning. I don't think there's enough upside in those guys and they don't play round 13, so not keen. Forward pack. Coruscant's a bit dodge for fantasy. Atakamane a bit dodge. Clemmer has it in him, but there's just like Offahangawi and Twal on the bench just means you're not going to do it. Papali'i and Bateman are kind of spicy. Like Papali'i is down to about 744k. He's on my list of targets for round 14 as well. I'm going to need about 30 trades for round 14 actually, just as I'm talking through this. But Papali'i is that guy. He's had a bit of a dodgy last few weeks, but he's an elite tier gun. So I'm keeping an eye on him. Bateman's been a bit dodgy with injury. Probably steering clear. Simpkins 220k, and if anything ever happened to Coruscant, just in terms of like an injury or something like that, he would be buy of the year at that price. Next group here, we got the Cowboys and the Dragons. There's two teams here who have had some ups and downs recently. So tough seasons, but big games. So I'm going to fly through these ones. Scotty Drinkwater, not bad. Not bad. We'll talk about him in the buys video. Posted a nice score last week. He's lost a lot of money this year because of the Cowboys' form. If they can bounce back, Scotty Drinkwater, it all runs through him. Good buys, good schedule. I don't mind it. I'm probably not going to do it myself, but I've seen some people do it. I like it. Backline, not touching it. Halves, probably not touching it. Dearden has the potential to go on a run at some point, but I just don't see it for the Cowboys. Forward pack, Reece Robson's dropped heaps of cash, been really inconsistent. He's cheap. It's all upside at this point for Reece Robson. He could easily go on a run of big scores, a couple of 70s in a row, and all of a sudden he's buy of the year. So I'm thinking about it with Reece Robson. I'm thinking about it in the next couple of weeks. Then in the forwards here, look, McLean, Hess. Don't fall for Hess. Don't fall for Hess. Lukey. Lukey's a guy who scored 19 points last week, and a lot of people bought him. I bought him in. I've hit gold trade after gold trade last month, but Lukey was my first flop in a while. Saying that, 55 minutes, 19 points. He had a pretty shocking game. He's got two nice fixtures coming up here, and he's got the major buy round where he plays as well. And he's only in the 400s. I think he's 430k or something like that, 460. I'm not buying him if I didn't have him, but I'm not too upset yet. I think he's got that explosion game in him, and I think he'll work his way up to 80 minutes. And he's a better player than Gazewski. So, yeah, I don't mind that with Lukey. Keep an eye on him. If he has a big game, you might want to bring him in next week. Ruben Cotter plays Origin. Minutes are getting managed pretty heavily. Don't touch. Granville, it's too late. Mitchell Dunn, no thanks. Denell Brown, no. I don't know how to pronounce this, but Kulikefu. I'm going to call him Kulikefu. So Kulikefu looked amazing last week. He passed the eye test. He won't get the minutes. He won't be a fantasy producer, I don't think. But he looked really good when he was out there, and he always punched through the line. And that is a bit of a risk to Lukey's minutes. So keep an eye on him. If he ever got a start, I'd probably be thinking about it. But I just can't see it with Nanai coming back soon. Dragon side of things, look, not touching this forward pack. So this backline at all, not keen. Lomax was kind of interesting, but then he got dropped. Jack DeBellin, 70+ minutes, even at prop. He's pumping out massive scores. If you don't have Jack DeBellin, this is the last week that you can even think about it. Like he's not going to play Origin. He's just playing great footy for fantasy. He makes so many tackles. He's a ball player. Got offloads in him. Like he's sort of that guy. So I'd be rushing him in if I didn't have him. I got on a while ago, but yeah, he's producing crazy. Then the rest of the pack. I mean, Blake Laurie's been a bit of a loser in the Jack DeBellin win, so his minutes have been a little less. Billy Burns, I'm not really keen. Jaden Sewer, no. Jack Bird, 53 minutes last week. I'm a little sus in his minutes. Jack DeBellin is taking more of those minutes. I think they might cycle between themselves. Like they might go from 80 minutes, 50 minutes each week. So that's a bit tricky. Jack Bird could also be picked for Origin. I don't see it happening. I don't expect it to happen, but he's that perfect sort of guy coming as a forward, guy can cover center, guy can cover half. I'd take Burton as my 14 over Jack Bird and start Nico Hines, but Bird's that conversation. Don't fall for Jaden Sullivan. He's still coming off the bench. He might even get the start, but I'm just not really buying in as a fantasy prospect. Like 56 with 2 individual tries. Not it for fantasy. Rest of the bench, not keen. If you got Couchman, I'm probably moving him on. He might play around 13, but he's just not been it at all. Next game here, we got the Raiders and the Eels. And, can my Parramatta Eels bounce back in this one? Yeah, on the Raiders side of things, look, Matt Tomoko is a beast. If you've got a spot at center that you want to fill, he's pretty expensive. You can either look at Matt Tomoko or Bailey Simonson. Will Penasini out of these two sort of teams in terms of centers. They're both in the 600s. I think 625 and 640, something like that. Yeah, they're both guys who get their hands on the ball a lot, run it a lot, offload, can beat guys, can score tries. Tomoko's probably more of a try scorer than Penasini, but Penasini's got a bit more of that work rate. So either of them, pretty good buy schedules. I don't hate them as reaches. They're kind of pods as well. Like they're really different guys. People don't have them. So yeah, have a think about that. In the halves, not touching Whiten or Fogarty. Fogarty has potential to make money, but Raiders just kind of dodgy. Don't go Papali. Look, Joseph Tarpanay, last season he played, I think it was 49 minutes a game for the first 10 rounds. This year he's played 48.1 or something like that. So Joseph Tarpanay is a guy where if it goes like last year, his minutes will increase through Origin. Josh Papali'i out as well. That kind of helps. But, well, if Papali'i makes Origin. But, yeah, Tarpanay is a guy, I'd think about it. I mean, again, my middles are full. Just look, and if you have 3 middles playing around 13, I wouldn't be doing it. But if you're looking for a reach option, Tarpanay or Horsburgh are both there. I went Horsburgh last week instead, just because the minutes are excellent. And he's playing great footy. And he's going to make money. Like, that's the thing with Horsburgh. If it flops with Horsburgh, you still end up 50K, 100K up from where you started. You made 40K last week. But Tarpanay is the better fantasy pedigree of the two. So do you back the talent or do you back the recent trend of minutes? That's the question for you. It's totally up to you because it can go either way. Back row, look, Hudson Young's always exciting. We talked about him as a buy a while ago. I think he was 100K cheaper back then. But he's still there. He's still scoring tries. He's got so many tries. Yeah, another pod you could look at. On the interchange, not really interested in any of these guys. Parramatta, we talked about Will Penasini. Don't get Hayes Dunster. I think Russell comes in and takes that spot at some point. I'm not really sure why that hasn't happened yet. Gutho's a guy you could look at. Gutho's kind of in that conversation with Drinkwater, with Reece Walsh. He's got a fantastic buy schedule. He's playing good footy. He's scoring a lot of tries this year. The base isn't the best, but he's a fullback, so whose base is good. But yeah, Gutho's a guy you could look at. I'd probably take Gutho over some of the other guys we've talked about, just because I think Parra will go on a bit of a run through Origin. They're not going to miss too many guys for Origin. So yeah, have a look at that. Have a think about it. I wouldn't fall for Sevo right now. He's got a bit of money. I was talking about him last week, actually. But he had that hat trick, and it just feels too late. Oh, and the halves here, Dylan Brown. So we talked about him a bit, but I've had Dylan Brown for a couple of months now, and he's gone 45 every week, like clockwork. And it's been kind of frustrating to watch as some other halves have gone better. But back-to-back 75-point games. He's 712K right now. That is value. That is value. That's still value on the start of the year. And it's rare that you see a guy go 76 points, 75 points, and there's still value. So Dylan Brown, he'd be a guy I'd be targeting if I didn't have him already. Just a beast. He ran 250 meters or something last week, and Mitch Moses is out, so he's going to do some kicking as well. In the forward pack, look, it's too late on Greig. I got Greig a while ago, but I wouldn't be doing it now. Junior play Origin. Sean Lane's kind of spicy. He dropped 130K. We'll talk about him on fire sale. Jermaine Hopgood's kind of interesting. He's in the low 700s. I hate selling someone and buying them back. Like it's a flaw in my gameplay, but I don't think I'm going to do it. But if you did it, it could work. It could work. Junior Paul will be out for Origin games too, so he'll get big minutes in those weeks. It could definitely work. I wouldn't be moving to get Davey. Don't do that to yourself. It's going to change too much, that forward pack. Hands not that interesting. Let's go to the next game here. So Knights and Titans, and there aren't as many guys to talk about here. None of these teams play round 13 bye. So let's get into this, because Knights had a lot of guys we were talking about buying a while ago. Gagai and Marzu are still elite guys. Not for right now. Kalen Pong is 400K. He may get to 300K the way he's playing. Keep an eye on that for a round 14 bye. If he doesn't make Origin and he gets to 350K, it is all upside there. I mean, he could, have an injury or something like that, but he's all upside as a fantasy scorer. He's averaged 50 in previous seasons. So keep an eye on Ponga. In the forward pack, look, Phoenix Crossland, if you have him and you held him, I mean, Kurtman's not in the 17 right now. So not the worst situation you're in. I'd hang on to Phoenix if I had him right now, because there's a lot of upside there. He goes back to his 65-minute role. Frizzell's been pumping, but all the money is in his price now. All those big scores are in his price now. It's too late. We said buy him at 600K. He's gone past 700 now. So, yeah, much too late. On the bench, I mean, if you're in a draft league, Adam Elliott's there. Adam Elliott's done well in the past. I'd think about him for a draft league. On the Titans side of things, look, don't go get Jaden Campbell. AJ Brimson will be back soon. They don't play the first major buy round. If they played round 13, I would have liked him as a buy last week. Only 39 points against Para, but yeah, he's a beast, Jaden Campbell. If you got Cam Pereira, you've enjoyed some tries. I traded him out a couple of weeks ago, and I think I pulled the trigger too early. He just keeps scoring and keeps running big distances to score. Brian Kelly, Jojo Fida, not really keen. If you got Tanner Boyd, don't buy Tanner Boyd, but if you have Tanner Boyd and you held on, you're a genius. Like you've done brilliantly, because he is pumping it the last month of footy. In the forward pack, Fodawaker, Tino probably both play Origin. Maybe Fodawaker, maybe not. Dave Fafita, surely he's in the Origin team, but he's one I've had from round one. Oh, he's been killing it. He's been killing it. I mean, at this point with Fafita, you can afford to wait. Like, just wait and see. It's 2 weeks left. I mean, the Knights are a nice fixture, though. But there's 2 weeks left before round 13 by an Origin. Wait and see. Does he get picked for Origin? And does this keep up? I mean, I think it's going to keep up. The question is, does he get picked for Origin? If he gets picked for Origin, you're probably not going to buy him. If he doesn't get picked for Origin, then he is a round 14 buy. Like, the top buy around 14. Stimson Lee, not interested. Whole bench, not interested either. Wouldn't be touching much of that. Next game, Seagulls and Sharks. Now, this is kind of juicy. So, Tom Trbojevic has not been in a lot of the New South Wales Blues teams. And people are talking about Latrell and Campbell Graham as your centers. And then a mix of Brian To'o, Joe Sully, Josh Adokar, all these different guys as wingers. So, Tommy Turbo, he might not play Origin. And based on current form, he probably doesn't make the Origin team. But based on previous New South Wales performances, he's like first picked. Maybe second. Latrell's a bit on another level, but he's a top tier guy. To be honest, if you have Turbo, I don't know, you might. He hasn't been great for fantasy. He's been really bad. I traded him out a few weeks ago. If I had him now, I might just hold him. Like, these wing fullbacks are not great right now. He might play that first major buy round as well. I'm kind of intrigued by it. And the other guy there is Ruben Garrick. He's down 150K. If Turbo didn't make Origin, he has his best man feeding him tries. And if Turbo does make Origin, he probably goes to fullback through that period. I thought it might be KO Weeks, but he had a really average performance when he got to line up fullback. So Garrick probably benefits either way. He's a guy that could be a monster pod. Again, I'm not buying him for fantasy. I did buy him for Dream Team, just because I take more risks on my Dream Teams. I have a bit of a laugh, but he could turn out to be a monster pod. He could be a guy that makes you 150 to 200K and just goes on an insane form run. But the question is, do you back Manly? And it's hard to back them right now. DC, he plays Origin. Not rushing him in. Probably not rushing to sell him. I don't know. Forward pack is so murky. And look, Jake Trbojevic is out of this team for a while now, but I don't want any of it. Olakwatu probably plays Origin. If the team's picked on merit this year and last year, then Olakwatu's there. The rest of it's so up and down. Like, it's so inconsistent. I'm not really buying any of it. Guys like Carl Lawton, if he got a big minute role, I'd be interested. But yeah, I'm not touching it. Sharks side of things, Talakai is pretty spicy. He's playing good footy. He's another pod you can go for, and he can go on a big run. Canal's playing well. Jesse Ramian's going to be very cheap very soon. He's dropping some big cash recently. I'm not touching the back three. Matt Moylan's not a guy for fantasy. Nico Hines is that guy. If you have Nico, keep Nico. If anyone talks about trading Nico in the comments, I'm going to ban you from the channel. I'm captaining Nico this week, most likely. I like the Manly matchup. They're an explosive attacking team that can't hold teams up, and you've got no Jake Trbojevic as well. So it's not bad. It's not bad for Nico. I'd be captaining him. Forward pack here. Look, the party's over a bit. Dale Finucane's back. So people want to talk about Oregon Kafusi, about Royce Hunt, about some of these other guys. Don't do that to yourself. Nakora is pretty explosive. T. Wilton's reasonably explosive. They're doing well. Cam McInnes, 67 last week. I think he made 59 tackles or something like that in 53 minutes and no misses. So I've got Cam McInnes, and I was looking at him going, when do I trade him out? Because he hasn't done it. He scored between 41 and 50 while Dale was out. But that big game has just injected some money into him. He's named on the bench. 53 minutes is not enough time for him to score 60 plus every week. 53 minutes, you're probably looking at a 53 average for him. He's that kind of guy. I wouldn't be buying Cam McInnes, but I'm not selling either. It's just a bit of an awkward spot to be in. And that's all the games. So look, yeah, that's Seamless Preview. We're going to be releasing Buy, Hold, Sell. Just drop a note in the comments if you have any questions or anything like that. We'll try our best to answer them. Post your trades in the comments. Who do you think about captaining? All of that good stuff. And yeah, check out NRL.com too. I'll be on there tomorrow for NRL Fantasy 12 through with the team there as well.